it's Jnwynn with Scraptastic Yarns Podcast. I did get 2 more hats done. I have enough yarn of this to do another baby hat. And this is something that was gifted to me, and it's by Bernat, and it was called Cool Crochet. And this is basically where is it? It's 70% cotton and 30% nylon. So that'll be a nice little summer hat for the babies going into fall. You know how that goes. Today is August the 28th. It's Tuesday. And I had told you yesterday that I was going to show you a few things on repurposing items. And I'm kind of a little bit all over the place. Told you I have ADD, right? Okay, I always call it craft ADD. But yeah, I do have ADD. I use a lot of bookshelves for my storage, and there was a time before Craftsy when I ordered a bunch of DVDs for crafting. This one is for the lace, the Irish crochet lace, and I've got a couple other in here, you know, some mosaic beading, drop spindling DVDs. Now, you can either stack them like that on your bookshelf, but I prefer not to stack them that way because I like to use those little shelf that you use in the kitchen. They'll divide shelves up to where you can put plates on one low and a little lower. So I do that with my bookshelves. And I use these small little cubicles. Little cubes. These are smaller than the ones that you get at Dollar Tree. This one was one that I got at Target, and they have several sizes. This was the small, and it just fits perfectly for the DVDs. Now, at bingo one time, I had picked up a little prize, and it was this basket, and in this basket I believe there was candy or something like that. Now, you know, I like to use baskets all the time. In this basket, I have these small books that I like to gather and keep on hand. You know, different kind of crochet books, knitting books. But these are small books, and they're kind of unmanageable when you get into the bookshelves because they start sliding all the way, all over the place. And then you'll see that I have these little leaflets, you know, that you get at AC Moore or Joann's for different patterns. And I basically just put them in this basket on those shelves, the little shelving units that you have, the wire ones that you can divide your shelving into different sections. You can place this on top of it. I also have a couple of DVDs. I have my looming, basic looming for the KB looms. And then with some of the quilting magazines, there were some quilting DVDs that came with those. So I keep those all together so I can use them when I need to use them. Do apologize about my voice. A lot of that has to do with the weather, because the weather is crazy. It's really humid here, so I'm having vocal cord issues. Let's see, what did I want to do next? I have a lot of these containers that I use for beadings, and these are called lockups. And the way they do is this bottom part locks into the lid of these, so you can stack them, and then you can set them on your shelves or wherever you want. I have a lot of those that have beads, and this one just happens to have markers, the split markers. And I keep those right here by my chair. I was at a garage sale one day, and I happened to get a couple of rice bowls. And they're just little plain rice bowls. But in those rice bowls, I keep markers and a safety pin to hold them all together. Pair of nail clippers, because it seems like whenever you're going along, every once in a while you'll get a nail that'll snag something. Got your clippers. If you can't find your scissors, got your clippers. And a packet of needles. These needles are the chibi with the little bent, and I also have two yarn needles for plastic canvas in those. I keep those by the side of my chair. I have some upstairs that hold my pins for quilting. It's great. Now we're going to get into a couple of little strange things. I love the use of pantyhose. And of course, I use the pantyhose around the cakes to help hold the cake. But one of the other things that I do is when I am on a bus trip or a road trip with someone and I'm not driving, many times I will make baby hats or regular hats. And I want to stripe them up or do something different. And balls are always falling all over the place. I do the same thing with the pantyhose. Tie it off, put some balls of different color into the pantyhose. And that can sit in my bag that I'm using to crochet and whatnot. And I don't have to worry about them getting all tangled up, rolling all over the place. So, that's an idea. One of the other things, when you wear pantyhose, and I no longer wear pantyhose, yay! I just don't. You don't want to throw these babies away. Not only can you use these in the garden, but let's say you have a skein of yarn, you were gifted, and it's dirty. You want to take it off. You want to take your label off. Slip that down in there, and it may not just be dirty, it may be smelly. Slip it down in that leg, tie up the end, throw it in the washing machine, dryer. It's fantastic. Now, what about the panty part? I have a use for that too. This is a nice big ball of yarn, super safer. And the panty part, if you tie up the legs that you've cut off, you can use that for your Karen Simply Soft, or your big balls to hold them. Don't you have some crazy ideas? I love using things over and over, trying to get the most bang for my buck. So that's my pantyhose. It can also be used to stuff amigurumi. Back in the day when we were making Cabbage Patch dolls, we were using pantyhose for the outside skins. Yeah, stuffing. and sewing and making dolls out of those. Pantyhose, they're great for everything. Are you done with your yogurt? Just don't know what to do with that container? Well, by all means, turn it into a container to put your cakes in and to use it to crochet or knit from. There's 2 cakes in here. Otherwise it would move a little more freely. But since there's 2 cakes in there, it's not moving as well. Now, I am a beader, and I don't know if you know that just by itself, but I like to bead. But I'm going to show you something. I have also done Swedish hook weaving, and I love tins. I use tins for all kinds of things. In this tin, I have a solar calculator. You never know when you have to do math. Some regular sewing needles, a gripper, leather needles. I mean, come on. You never know when you have to sew up a shoe or something. Some pins. And then, of course, I have needles that I would use for the Swedish weaving. Got a couple of those. Now, I've been doing some toothbrush rugs. Normally, my toothbrush needles would also be in here, but they're not today because they're somewhere else. I'm using it. So that's off somewhere else. And with my beading, let me see if I can find it. Probably over here. With my beading, I tend to like to take small projects with me places. So again, small tin. Got it at the Goodwill store. I have cut a beading mat to use, so that I can use the lid as a beading mat. In this I have my current project, which is part of a necklace that I am working on. And this is done in the diagonal peyote stitch. And when I get finished with this, there will be a rose that I am going to bead that will go in this area for a necklace. But I use these little bobbins. These are Kumihimo bobbins. Sometimes I will use these to put my beading thread on, and I use wildfire. I'll just wind it around so that I have it ready, or you can just put a spool of beading thread in there, and then I have a couple of beading needles, pair of scissors, and beads. Now my beads, this is the current pack that I had used. I do have a much larger container of those beads, and as I use them, because many times I do this like when I'm at the doctor's office or waiting for something, but I put it all back in there and it's ready to go for the next time. Another thing for beading needles. Now, I know this isn't all yarny, and I can understand if you're just not interested. I do have some more yarny stuff coming up. This is a beading tube that held beads. You get these kind of beads at AC Moore and Joann's. And inside of it, you cannot see real well, but I have beading needles. I find this a nice way to carry my beading needles. Also to set them aside here so I know where they're at, because since they're small wires and very thin, many times they get lost easily. And nobody wants to step on those in the middle of the night because it does hurt. Let's see. I have so many things. I use a lot of these things to hold, these are cabochons that I was using to make certain designs that I was crocheting. Earrings, those kind of things. Or if I'm making necklaces with them out of the crochet. I do have a couple of loop hoops in there. Hairbands. Keep hairbands. Now the other thing that I use in these lots of times is when I am knitting a necklace, I will use these size double pointed needles, and I just keep them all together in there. It's an easy way to keep track of those things, and they can set up in a small basket on the shelf as well. One of the other things that I do, I love to tat. So I have a bag for my tatting, and normally it will carry different tatting threads. I have instructions in here, beads that I might want to use for tatting, scissors, also my shuttle, a ruler, nail polish. That's for stopping the ends up. But I will also have my tatting needles in there, as well as my shuttles. I do both kind of tatting, so I keep that all together. So when I want to go somewhere and I want to tat, I can just grab that, take it with me, toss it in a purse or a bag. Works out great, folks. Now, told you I have a little ADD. I also like to do something and it has to do with making penny rugs, candle mats, those kind of things. So I generally have my wool already cut. And this is wool that is felted. And I keep it in a little bag like this. And I have all the little items that I'm going to attach here, there, and wherever. Leaves. All stuck in this little bag, so that when I'm ready to work on it, I can work on it. Now, it has scissors in here, embroidery floss, many different sizes of embroidery needles. I also have pins to pin those onto place when I get them ready. And of course the little bobbins for the floss. And, scissors. Here's a tip. It's beginning of school. I don't know about you, but I don't like paying the expensive price for the embroidery needles or embroidery scissors, the stork scissors. They work fine, they're wonderful, fantastic. I don't always want to have 100 of those. The beginning of school, they always have scissors from anywhere from $1 to $1.97. I just grab a bunch of those scissors so I can put them in different bags, and they cut the yarn fine. When they stop cutting, I pitch them. I mean, it's real easy. Now we're going to go back to the tins. In this tin, and generally this tin is shared with another tin. It's usually split. But when we went to North Carolina, I placed everything in the one tin. And in that tin, I have a row counter, a gauge. I have double-pointed needles, stitch markers, and several different types of needles, my little stork scissors. And I have sizes 4 through 8 in this tin because I never know what kind of hat I want to make. So I have the double-pointed needles. Everything is in this, ready to go. So all I have to do is add yarn. When it is full like this, I do tend to use a hairband to hold that tin together. This is a Hershey tin. The other tins I use are like Christmas tins, you know, those kind of things. Repurposing. And this is one of the other tins that I carry needles and things in, balls of yarn for making those hats. I was at Walmart one day, and they had this marked down in the fishing area for $1.50. Not only that, but it had all these envelopes. This is where I keep my circular needles. Not all of them, but most of them. And what I do is I will put the sizes, and I will put all different lengths of cords in there together. And it just keeps things nice and neat. There are several other pockets on the outside and around it that I can use. I just choose not to. So, you know, keep an eye out for something like that. I keep telling myself that I need to make me one of those hanging, nice big long things where you just string your cords through different sizes, but I just haven't done it yet. Yeah, you know, get busy, forget about doing things. As a quilter, we are reminded many times that we need to practice quilting stitches, getting muscle memory. So, they tell us to use paper and to draw what you would be quilting on a quilt. That gives you muscle memory so that when you start to quilt, you have a clue. Again, you know, cheap little tins I got for like a dime, quarter at the Goodwill. Yeah, our Goodwill's pretty good about marking things down. Community Aid is another good place to go to for those things. I got this one for 10 cents. Holds quite a few things. Scissors. Now these scissors are the only scissors that I will use on plastic canvas needles, and some wire snippers. When doing plastic canvas, many times you like to get into these tight little corners, and these snippers work great for that kind of thing, to get into those. I don't have my marking pen in here. Normally I have a dry erase pen in here so that if I need to mark my canvas, I can mark it. This was a cookie they sold at A.C. Moore. You know I love sugar skulls. But inside of this, I have another set of needles and some plastic needles, some more canvas needles, a Band-Aid, little scissors, and attached to that little scissor is a needle threader. And this one is great for using it for yarn to get it through the needles. Works real quick and easy. So I have that all set up ready to go so that when I'm doing plastic canvas, I just grab this tin and off I go. Now, with the hospital, many times people will donate their knitting needles to us. So we have quite a large number of knitting needles. We do have a box, like a paper, Xerox paper box that we hold our needles in. But what we do is we will place those into the paper towel dispensers or even toilet rolls. And I've only got 4 needles in here, but those at the hospital are completely full. You'll put sets in here until it's full so that you can sit it down so it's easier to just pick up, look to see what size you need, take, bring it back, whatever. When I first had double-pointed needles, I needed a system to put them someplace, and I really didn't have one. I had a friend whose son likes to smoke cigars. She asked me if I could use those because what I had tried to use, I had been given quite a few of these. These are toothbrush holders, and what I had done is I had taken, and in the ends there, because there's holes, I'd placed half of a makeup remover pad in there to help hold the needles, and then that way I could just mark on those what size they were, and go on. But even still, with that makeup down in there, you see how that one moved? It moves, and then you've got needles coming out the ends. So she gave me cigar holders. Do you have some metal ones that screw on? The metal ones are various sizes from about here to longer. But these are great for putting your double-pointed needles in for a project on the go, or just to store them. The other thing is, crochet hook fits in there fine. Cutter, you could put your needles in there. If you had to go on a flight, you'd be able to take that on board with you. They don't take your nail clippers from you yet. So you could still use that. You could put this little tiny emery board in there if you wanted to, whatever. So that you have a way to continue to knit. Go on your merry way. These little containers, and it's not empty yet. Dollar Tree lotion. I like using this on my hands, but when I'm finished emptying it, I can certainly find something to put it in. I can use bobby pins. I can put, for stitch markers, or you can put paper clips, safety pins, stitch markers. Lots of ways to repurpose, reuse things. Those things are easy enough to carry in your purse to where you don't feel like you have to take everything under the sun with you. So, now I do something in my car, and this has nothing to do with crafts, although it can have something to do with crafts. Again, I'm using little tins, and this was one of those little mint tins I got at Dollar Tree. These mints are disgusting, but I thought I'd give them a try. I like cinnamon. You know those wax squares that you get at Dollar Tree, Target, wherever for like $2, different cents? You can cut those in half, or if you've got a larger tin, you can leave it full. You can put it in your tin, place it in your car. Your car will smell good. Now, the only thing you want to make sure of is if it's a hot day, that you have this inside of a plastic bag, so if it does melt, it's not all over the place. Generally, I don't carry it in the car during the summer, but when we go through certain parts of the Amish country, many times they're burning their trash, and they are burning plastics as well as dirty diapers. And the stench is just wonderful. You open that up as you're driving along. That helps, take away some of that awful stench. And that way, when you get to where you're going, you can leave it open for a little bit, or you can close it and open it up when you get back in the car. And it's just a way to use it as an air freshener. Now, I have two things that are... Actually, I'm going to go to the box first. Those of us that are getting knit crates, these boxes can be repurposed. Those of you that are quilters already know where I'm going. This is great for holding those little tiny squares or little tiny projects you have, like flying geese or whatnot. But the other thing is, with the hats that we've been doing for the babies at the hospital, many times we'll make little crocheted appliques, or lots of times I will take lace, turn it into a little like rosette, put a button in the center of it so it's ready to be sewn onto a hat. These are great for keeping track of those, holding them, putting them aside. I do also have one more item. I make these little clutches, and this is, I believe it's the Coreline clutch, and it's a free pattern at, I think it's Swoon. It's just a nice little soft clutch. You could use it like a regular clutch. You guessed it. Many times I will have a pattern in there, double pointed needles or whatever, little project, crochet hook, small balls of yarn. Take it and go. You can throw your little wallet in there, and you don't have to carry a bunch of stuff. Now the next two items that I'm showing you can also be given as gifts, and it is repurposing just big tablespoons. And basically what you're doing is you're taking a tablespoon and, many times in the summer you'll go to garage sales and they'll sell silverware. And a lot of people pick those up because they go camping. They don't have to worry about it if it gets lost, whatever. Or you can do these for little gifts for your quilting friends, your sewing friends, whatever. Basically, it is taking a piece of fabric, putting some batting in it, or stuffing, hot gluing it to the spoon, hot gluing little ribbon with the button and some little decorative ribbon down the front. Real simple, easy. Nice gifts. I think I showed you this. This was something that I got at I don't think it was garage sale. I think it was community aid. I like to make things that are shabby chic. And this is along that lines of the shabby chic. It is basically a soup spoon, soup scoop, where the handle has been bent into shape so they can be used as a pincushion. On the inside here, they have taken burlap with the stuffing, glued it into the bowl of the spoon, taken a small doily, and they have stitched it on. But you don't have to stitch it on, you can glue it on. And then, of course, they've stitched on a little rose and some little pieces off of lace. And then you've got a nice little pincushion. You can use this by your chair. Many times we need to use pincushions, pins to hold things together that we're sewing. So that's kind of fun. And don't overlook the bowl clip. Bowl clips of various sizes can be used all over the place. From sewing room to pinning your garments together to stitch them together. Your sweaters. I've done that. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that I like to repurpose. I'm always looking for a way to repurpose, to reuse something. My kids used to tease me about Christmas because I would repurpose oatmeal boxes. I'd wrap their presents in an oatmeal box. I told them, and they used to tease me all the time, we never know if we're getting oatmeal or if we're going to get a pair of socks or something in there. And I still do that to this day. So, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can repurpose things. I love tins. They can be used for other things besides just buttons. So with that, I'll close, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.